All right, let's get this all straightened out. Is this as bad as everyone's talking about? Um. Oh, what the hell's going on here? I was like, what the hell is that? Sorry, so I got somebody's playing Peak on PC over here, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? So, anyways, uh, yeah, we are getting ready to start the Tron Ares 2025 movie review. So, what exactly is the deal with this movie? Why is it? I don't know. It's bombing. Is it Jared Leto starring? Leto, is it Leto? Leto? Jared Leto. People don't really like him. He has apparently tons of things in his aura that apparently people are just not about. I am not one of those individuals that has any idea about his. I know he has like some sort of weird cult following, but I also don't really know much more past that besides him being Morbius time. And, I like some of his previous earlier movies. I'm not sure if he's always the right pick for everything. So, I want to walk the line of being, I'm, want to be blissfully ignorant about anything going in, but I really didn't know, and I still am not exactly sure why there is so much hate on him. I'm sure in the comment section, people are going to be like, "Oh, dude, did you not know he did this, that, and the other, and this?" Okay, let me know. Let me know. And obviously, cite your sources and everything like that. I'm not really here to be like, what did he do and why is this movie not working to that degree. I'm more looking at it from the production standpoint. So, Tron Ares 2025. What's the movie about? Mankind encounters AI beings for the first time when a highly sophisticated program Ares leaves the digital world for a dangerous mission in the real world. Directed by Joachim Ronin. Music by Nine Inch Nails, PG-13, sitting at just under 2 hours. And, of course, we got Jared Leto as Ares, and we have alongside him from Past Lives, Greta Lee playing Eve. So, and, of course, the antagonist, Evan Peters, in this. And, yeah, let's kind of break this down. What happened to this movie here? So, looking at the the trailer of Tron Ares, I thought, I was like, okay, looks decent. There's a lot of CGI clearly, and the music's pretty banging. But when it came down to it, I was like, I kind of want to go see this in theaters. It was Tron Legacy, the movie that came out, I believe, in 2010. Let me confirm that. 2010, 2 hours, 5 minutes, PG versus this new one that's PG-13. Sitting at 170 million. I know that Joseph Kosinski directed that. Same F1 guy from this year, Top Gun Maverick, Oblivion. I think he's slowly gotten better with time, with his directing skills, obviously. This is no Kosinski film, but I have gone back and watched the original Tron, and I watched Tron Legacy before doing this review. I didn't want to, do Tron Ares without kind of doing that service of what happened in these, layered series, this franchise now, especially. So, with saying that, I'd say there's about two halves that you have to look at this movie. It's the audio and visual spectacle of, just seeing some of the most amazing looking CGI I've seen in quite maybe a year or two. I think it's up there with some of the best visuals I've seen. It's very visually captivating, very visually rich. The music is absolutely banging on so many levels. I've listened to this album a handful of times already, and I'm like, this is the visuals and the audio, the auditory mix, the music, all of those things about this movie are hitting on such high levels that you just wish that the story and the direction were keeping up with it. Now, I don't think there's necessarily something wrong with the direction of this movie, because I think it has good ideas, it has good concepts, it has the first 45 minutes, I want to say, are pretty well focused. It's kind of when it starts to fall apart, not just like in the way that these programs or these entities are falling apart in the actual movie. So essentially, the AI programs are coming to the real world, but they are limited by like a 29-minute timer, and that's basically how long after they're 3D printed in the real world, how long they're going to last. And so I think that the concepts and the ideas for this, were really strong starting out. There's, the painful look of them having to, live, die, repeat, similar to, Edge of Tomorrow. And there's concepts in this that are really cool ideas, like the Tron motorcycle race, a lot of the chasing. I was just very impressed by the ideas of these things. Now, the actual execution of it, when it came down to the storyline, it came down to, were these characters kind of meshing well as a team, or did they have chemistry on screen? Not necessarily like romantic chemistry, but were they coherent as a squad at a certain point? And I'd say not really. I think that there is a big fail of this movie where this concept of an AI, think of like a chat GPT-ish, like essentially Jared Leto plays a chat GPT character coming to real life through 3D printing, and the whole kicker of this is that they want to last longer than 29 minutes. Now, you have Gillian Anderson, X-Files and Sex Education and every other thing she's been in. She's in this as well, barely. And so, you have basically the two different corporations that are trying to figure out, the Incom Corporation, who has been in the previous Tron movies, who were the representation of where the programs were located, where the servers were located. And then you have the other... let me see. I don't know what the other. You have Evan Peters' company. I don't know if I have that yet. But anyways, essentially, Jared Leto's playing a robot or a program named Master Control Program, and it's obviously it's from the previous movies where there was like the program that was running all of the other programs. Like it's overall of it's obviously in the title too. So anyways, visually really cool, concepts really cool, execution, that's where I think we're starting to fall apart around here. So you'll see some of the coolest visuals I think in this movie of the year, but it's going to be kind of hollow. It's going to be you're going to be wanting more at the end of this. And I'd say it's a pretty slick trailer. It looks pretty cool, and it has a lot of the same imagery that you saw in the Daft Punk's score. The Daft Punk led Tron Legacy, and there is a very visually rich aesthetic in that movie, and I think that it transfers in this one as well. So I just want to say that I really did enjoy the visuals of this, and I felt like I was pulled in by that. And having it big on screen, projected 100 feet in the air, I didn't see it in IMAX, but and I wanted to see it in 4DX, but I saw it in like a RPX, I believe, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. RPX is like the Regal's kind of fancy projection. It's got nice chairs that kind of vibrate at the times that there's big music playing or there's big loud spectacle going on. But yeah, and there's a lot of callbacks and imagery to earlier Tron movies, not just Legacy, but the original Tron. There's actually a lot of original Tron imagery that is shown in here. So again, Just like the Tron Legacy was 170 million, this is 180 to 200. Oh, sorry about joke. I was like 180 to 220 million. Oh my god. Okay, so and it's also a box office has made about 104 million. I don't think that Legacy really made all of that much money from what I can remember. I don't have the Legacy pulled up. Let me see this Legacy, because what I think it might have made 300, 400. Okay, so on 170 it made, yeah, it's not going to make that. At 170 it made 409 million, not including for inflation and all that, so that would probably be closer to like 600 probably now, but there's no way that Ares is going to make that. So there's a number of things that I have that feel like they're relevant to this movie. One, this is a 2-hour movie. I've seen a lot of 2-hour movies this year, and I feel like the studio had a lot of these studios had mandates that we're 2 hours, 15 minutes is going to be the max. We're not doing any more 3-hour craziness. Let me think. One battle after another might be a little different. If you're an auteur, maybe, but if you're a studio film, which certainly is, then you're not going to get no 2.5 hour feature right there. So, and I didn't want to be there for 2.5 hours, although it felt like there was at least maybe an hour and a half cut out of this, and probably most of it was things that were helping it give it heart, give it gravitas, give it kind of a little bit more richness to it. And what it feels like it left is a whole bunch of chase scenes of cat and mouse, of programs fighting other programs, and the stakes were a little bit like, I'm not sure if I 100% see the stakes here. I understand when things get big, they got big, but it felt like they yada yada'd some of the more important stuff, trying to find what I believe was called the permanence code. And so essentially this movie has two different sides. It originally feels like it was supposed to be, which in the original script I heard was Tron Ares. Ares is supposed to be a bad guy. He's supposed to be the antagonist, as opposed to what's going on here, which is, Leto is, without spoiling it, he is a protagonist. And I feel like it kind of starts out like he's supposed to be an antagonist. And there's this whole beginning of him, feels like robot wants to become more man. And I always like that kind of story and cinematic telling, and especially when, it's a good actor acting like robot before coming man, or before, being entrenched in human emotion or something like that. And it never really feels like it earns that, even though, without spoiling anything, that's the whole gist of the movie. And so we won't say if it does or doesn't do that, but there are elements of, this is the most badass robot that you've ever seen, but then the robot's going to stop running right when it catches our protagonist. There's other elements of like, all right, it's definitely been over 29 minutes since this thing has been like formed in the real world. I just thought there was a lot of interesting like rules they set up for the world that they didn't really stick to, or it didn't feel like they played off it that much. And so I was, disappointed on that front, and the fact that it's trying to do so many callbacks and trying to gear itself so much, and like, oh, remember the 80s? Like, yeah, the 80s were great. Durant, like 20 different times we're like reminded of like, oh, for some reason, Jared Leto's Chat GPT's looking ass is obsessed with the 80s for like no reason. It's just like music will start playing from out of nowhere, and they would be like, oh yeah, radical 80s, dude. I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, and this very much feels more like what is it called? Not a sequel reboot. Maybe like a sequel reboot, legacy reboot, because things are mentioned, things are shown. A lot of the aesthetics of the world of Tron are shown, or even in you can even see Jeff Bridges in the trailer shows up for a little bit. But to be honest, it doesn't require you to have seen the original Tron or necessarily even the second Tron because of the way it kind of just yada yadas the Sam Flynn's character and Kevin Flynn's character. And we can talk a little bit in the spoilers if you want to about the connection between the two, but it really feels like the general framework of what happened in the previous movies. We're like, all right, now we're going to take that and then we're going to bring them to the, instead of everybody getting transferred into the grid, then we're going to bring you out of the grid and bring all these programs out of the grid. And these are going to be real people and they're going to be 3D printed. And in a way, there is really cool concepts with that. Like we are 3D printing things now that could potentially help us in the future with regards to like housing. I'm pretty sure they're doing 3D printing housing. They're probably 3D printing things with the military. They're probably 3D printing all sorts of things that you would normally have to source in other places. And so the concept of 3D printing is real today. So it would be cool to explore that one step further. So essentially they, Evan Peters, antagonist, for anyone that hasn't seen already, Evan Peters, antagonist, is creating Tron Ares. They're creating super soldiers that are 3D printed from digital programs into real world. And by that happening, it is a really cool concept, but you have Greta Lee trying to find out this other side of the permanence code, which is she's trying to, instead of 3D print weapons, she's trying to 3D print things like trees and food and things that are more humanitarian based and more community focused. And I've heard like 3 different podcasts. They're like, all right, so what is, since she has like this 3D printed digital trees coming out of everywhere and he's not able to have the permanence code, like what exactly is the deal? If something like when it never shows what happens if she ingests like an apple off of a 3D printed tree and you're like, what, all right, is it fulfilling for the person? Like, do I have to just buy that this would work? And I'm like, okay. It just seems like, oh shit, she just created it's nearly like magic to the point of how ridiculous it is. But they could have, just explained it a little bit more, I guess. I don't know. Maybe the more you explain it, the worse it sounds. Anyways, having rewatched the Tron Legacy and original Tron, obviously neither one of these movies kind of I wouldn't say they're worse than the original Tron. The original Tron is so out there as a movie, and it almost feels like an experimental concept because of how I wouldn't even say low budget, just lo-fi lo-fi that the actual movie is. And there's elements of the original Tron that are like clearly evoking Star Wars, and it's actually a movie that came out or was probably being produced at the same time as A New Hope and Empire, because I think the original Tron was 82, which is that's 5 years after A New Hope, and Empire came out in between that as well. So it definitely evokes all of the original Tron aesthetic from the point of having, ships that look like it, from the point of having the iconography that looks like it, from the point of having like the master control program be included in it as well. It is very much what it feels like is Tron. The original Tron feels like Evil Dead before Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 essentially remade Evil Dead 1, but with like a much bigger budget and like barely referred to the first one. You could have almost watched the second one without even knowing what had happened. And so I definitely feel like these movies are, they like bite, they do like a little bite of the aesthetic and the idea of the previous Tron, and then they try to like enhance it with sprinkling in just a little bit, some of the Tron flavoring, like with the aesthetic, with some of the action, but they really are trying to move in a different direction. I'd say Legacy is essentially like the same thing as like Evil Dead 2. Sam gets pulled into the computer versus not getting pulled into the computer. So, versus the third one where the programs are being pulled out of the computer. So, the dichotomy's there. Now, I think that's about all we can really talk about. I know I've kind of been jumbling around with this one, but essentially, Jodie Turner Smith. Did I say that right? Jodie Turner Smith is another antagonist in this, and I don't really know if I can say too much without going into spoilers at this point, but I'd say she's one of the more stronger aspects of this cast, with regards of having a clear-cut idea of what we're doing, where we're going, kind of thing. I did feel like we were kind of like yada-yadaing when it becomes Greta and it becomes, what was it, Eve, and it becomes Ares. It just becomes kind of like oil and water that don't really mix very well, and it feels like they're talking at each other with expository information, and they're not really having a real conversation about like what's really going on here. So I'd say that the ball was dropped on many parts on this, but I will say that I really do love the aesthetic of this series and this franchise, and I hate to see it that it's being taken down for a number of different reasons. But I understand why people aren't fond of, to an extent, aren't fond of Jared Leto, and he might not be a draw for a lot of people. And just know he is a producer on this movie, so it's kind of hard for someone of that magnitude. And what I had heard is he had used a lot of his clout from the Dallas Buyers Club and earlier previous dramatic roles to really wedge himself into this franchise, which I think has been in development for over 10 years at this point, if not very kind of close to it. So I don't really know if we can say too much more than that. It's a shame that we're probably not going to get another Tron movie, maybe for at least 10 years again, probably 15 years. But, they definitely leave this in a way that they're like, oh, just wait till next time. And it's like, I don't know if there's going to be a next time. So, I gave this movie a solid 6 out of 10. It's one of the only 6 out of 10 movies that I've ever wanted to go back and rewatch, probably in a different format. I really just want to go back and watch it in like a 4DX or kind of like a big IMAX screen or something like that, because the visuals and the soundtrack is just outstanding. It is so much. I'd say that part of the movie 8 out of 10. The rest of it 6 out of 10. But because it doesn't ever live back up to those points, I don't feel like I can give it anything higher or like a 7 out of 10. I think it does come back down to a 6 out of 10. I'm gonna try to go see it in another format to see if it kind of elevates it a little bit more, because I really like the soundtrack. I mean, I have heard that people were like, it's not as good as the Daft Punk one. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I kind of think it's up there, just about as good as the Daft Punk one, and I am a mega Daft Punk fan. Like, Derez was on Derez is played on replay at my house. I love all of Daft Punk stuff, and the aesthetic and grittiness of the Tron Legacy, but also the iconic blue look is just such a counterbalance to what happens here. I mean, I really like the red to the blue look here. And of course, in the original Tron, you have the red and blue programs, which one's on which side, and Jeff Bridges is being transferred, all that type of thing. And then you have actual Tron, which I was like, who the fuck is? I was like, is Tron the program? Like, I didn't know what was going on, and it took me watching the original Tron to realize, oh, the guy's named Tron. Like, this is a guy, and now that's where my disappointment came in, because I was like, I didn't hear a single person say that Tron Ares was worse than the original Tron, and I think by far the original Tron is just barely a movie, but it's more like a concept movie. And I think I'm not going to try to do like a full review of that one, but I just emotionally, there was like hardly any emotion in it. They try to use comedy that like computer engineers of the 80s would understand. It was a movie that felt like it was made by nerds, computer nerds, for computer nerds. And I would like to be a computer nerd and be more worldly in that realm, but like there were certain things about it that just felt like, my lord, this is so niche. And for anybody watching in 1982 to be able to like have this concept in their head of like programs in a computer, and they're, instead of programs, they're little people that are running it in there. It's just ultra high concept, ultra low concept that is like, even in today's era would be hard to to think about in like a constructive way. I could see like half the audience going into this and they're like, I don't even know what this meant. I don't even know what a computer program is. Like it would be like showing your grandma and grandpa that's 80, 90 years old Tron Legacy or Tron Ares and be like, get it, grandpa, get it, grandma. Like I don't even know if parents would understand this concept. Like it's such a niche concept of understanding, all right, where am I in this world and what's happening? And spatially, in the original Tron, I'm like, where the hell are we going? This is just an infinite world of whatever the fuck's going on. And then the second one, when I watched it, I was like, why should I be worried about like computer programs having motorcycles and all of a sudden they're fighting with like frisbee discs or something like that? Like I had so many different questions when it came down to it, that once you watch all of them back to back to back, you're like, oh, this came from the game, and Jeff Bridges was the original guy that was going sucked into the computer, and it looked really painful in the original movie, and he's like going crazy and all that. But let's get into spoilers real quick, and we can kind of like tie all this together. I don't want to spoil everything from all three of the movies before we hit the spoiler section on that, and then I'll kind of do like light spoilers, because like I said, visuals and the audio, I recommend it on a light touch. Like it really grabbed me how visually rich this was, but it also let me down at the same time with the script. And it feels like there was probably a tighter script of, robot becomes man, and there's a battle to become more of a permanent entity in our world. And I like that idea. I think that's kind of an idea that's passed down from many different types of sci-fi. But, with saying that, we're like, well, we need a little bit of heart with this. It can't be just chase scene after chase scene, even though it's a lot of fun and they got the great, one of the greatest soundtracks of the year. Like, I was like, you got to have more. And so, yeah, I was disappointed in some ways. I was visually enthralled in others. But yeah, let's get into spoilers. This is a 6 out of 10 movie, and having tempered expectations. I will say that before we hop into the spoiler section, it has a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb. It's 53% Rotten Tomato and 86% on Fandango. So people are, actually kind of split down the middle. And I'm not sure if it's the people that really like it that are not really saying that much. And they're like, oh, I kind of like it, even though it's got Jared Leto in it. Oh, my goodness. Like, I'm looking at the original Tron. That got a 6.7 out of 10. Metacritic 58%, Rotten Tomatoes 60. So it's really not that far from, we're still hitting in the ballpark of about 50-60%. And then Tron Legacy, 6.8 out of 10, 51%, 3.2 out of 5 on Letterboxd. They're all hitting within the same range. We're not hitting home runs every time. So if you took like the Leto part out, and I had heard other people were like, put Ryan Gosling in this, put Ryan Reynolds in this, put any Ryan in this, put Hugh Jackman in this. I don't know. I'm just making up random names. Put any random white actor in this. I don't know. It could be any. Didn't have to be white. Garrett Hedlund would have been nice to have back, but it wouldn't have made sense for this. But I just thought that I was like, I wanted more. I wanted just a little bit more. But you also got to be like, you know what? People haven't, it's hitting within the same ballpark, with the exception of the money that it's not making. It is still hitting within the same ballpark from like an emotional standpoint. And a lot of people are like, who gives a fuck about Tron? Who gives a fuck about Tron? It's not like I care about Tron, but I'm like, it's a cool aesthetic. It's a cool ass look. There's really sick visuals. There's awesome action. There is iconic imagery. I think that the second one might be a little bit more of the aesthetic of the iconic imagery that we're looking for. But I got to say that the red aesthetic, the visuals, the action, all that good stuff, all was really cool. So we're in spoiler section by now. And I don't think that the fighting got any cooler than when, or the action did not get any cooler than when Leto is going into, as Ares is going into the hacking of Incom, and they are having to fight this other aesthetic of, these other programs that are trying to stop this cyber hack, essentially. And we're seeing the cyber hack right here with all these like actions, like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I mean, it's really fucking cool. And then of course the whole twist of the movie is, Ares doesn't want to listen to Evan Peters anymore, and he's starting to question his existence. And there is this whole background of like him being killed off every 29 minutes every time he's made, and then it looks like it's painful as fuck when he dies. And so we never really established that, even though that's kind of been a Tron thing when you're going in and out of the digital world. Like Jeff Bridges getting like erased into, the first time he gets zapped into Tron, that is a scary ass looking scene. And I'm like, God dang, like they got many parts of this right when it comes down to, the concept of it. And what really tells me that there was probably a longer cut here is that Cameron Monaghan, from Shameless, has a 5-second scene, and he's credited as one of the main actors in this. And so there's a multitude of things that it felt like yada-yadaing to get to, the funny characters or the fun characters, or to get something to happen. And I was like, I felt like I should have watched a 4-hour Tron Ares to understand this entire thing. There was probably like a season's worth of backstory of what's going on here. Evan Peters has these crazy tattoos going up his body that I don't think is ever addressed for anything. One of the main twists are, Ares decides to, go off on his own and kind of disobey the Evan Peters character. What is his name? Gillian Dillinger. And so it becomes Ares versus Athena. And there's just really bad writing when it comes down to it, when they're like in the elevator and they're like, so Ares, like the god of war, right? It's just like, what the hell are you talking about? Why is that even, how dumb do you think the audience is? Like, I don't know if I could have said it off the top of my head about like, oh, what does your name mean, man? But like, we didn't have to go there. We didn't at certain parts. I was like, is this written so that it can just be universally translated really easily for any culture. Like, it felt like it was written so it could just be like, oh, just flip it to Chinese, oh, flip it to Japanese, oh, flip it to, I don't know, French. Like, it felt like a very basic script that they wanted it to play very worldly, and they kind of have like a pretty relatively big cast when it comes down to it. Like, I thought Greta would be bringing in kind of a large audience as well, because she's bringing in the Asian markets, what I would expect, and she's bringing in kind of the independent film demographic as well, which is, again, I'm not sure where she's from, but I felt like she had a diverse enough background that would be more exploratory to, bring in more individuals, and especially having someone like Jodie Turner-Smith. I just thought that there was a lot of different big demographics that could have been hit. And why didn't this movie hit? Well, I would say maybe the immediate, the YouTube critics and whatnot. Most of us were kind of about it. We did not love it, so it's hard to recommend it on that level. But again, looking at the Rotten Tomatoes, looking at the Fandango score, the people that did see it, that don't see too many movies too often, I'd say, enjoyed it. And when I went to see it, we had both aesthetics of people. I went to like a 10 o'clock screening. It was a little bit late. We had one guy to my right of me that was sleeping for the first 30 minutes. And by the way, I thought the intro was fucking sick. He missed some really cool opening stuff. But we're like in the server, in the mainframe and all that shit. It was like, whoa, it was crazy, man. That kind of thing. So he was fucking sleeping, snoring his ass off for about the first 30 minutes. And then I had people in front of me that were clapping. They were clapping during it. And I was like, okay, so we got the diehards and then we got the no-hards over here. I was just like, I have never been to a movie theater where it's been such a dichotomy. It's normally been like, all right, people won't shut up, stop talking and type stuff. I just saw Black Phone, and a lot of people were restless in it, but I didn't find anyone sleeping and then half the audience like cheering on or something like that. It was never like that. This was a weird movie that kind of pulled both crowds in. I'm not sure. Maybe that guy was just tired. I didn't want to be like, oh, maybe he was a movie theater kid that was like, all right, I've been working too long, I need to go take a nap. But I was about to be like, all right, I didn't come to see Tron Ares and this dude fucking snore through half the thing. He ended up waking up. It was probably more like 10 minutes, but still, I was like, the intro was like one of the coolest parts of the movie. I actually think probably the first 30 minutes is pretty much the strongest parts. And like a quick edit of maybe bringing some of the more heart to this movie would have done a lot to like save it. I don't really know if I have too much more to say other than that. The motorbikes chase was really cool, and then the chops down the police officer car in half. We could watch that over and over. Just the different types of when the Tron motorcycles are going zoom, and you see like the streaks behind them and stuff for like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 minutes, and it's just like one of the coolest aesthetics I've ever seen. And another cool thing is my car has like an upgrade that has like the Tron like motorbike sounds and stuff like that. So when you hop in and out of the car, it like goes. I was like, this is badass. I was like, the aesthetic of Tron is cool as fuck. I don't care what you got to say about it. If the movies suck, the movies might suck, but the ideas and the concepts are there. Like it feels like it's on the table. It's ready to go. It's like, just cook the goddamn thing. And I feel like we didn't cook it all the way, or we got like 70% of the way there, and then they're like, and pull it out and done. Like, I was like, God dang it, we're so close to having a legitimately good Tron movie. So I do want to rewatch it. I don't know if I'm going to make it back in theaters to go see it, but just for the soundtrack and big big IMAX screen alone, it might be worth it. If I got an extra 2 hours, I would do it. I wish it was a little bit closer to me. That's my problem. It's not very close. And so, yeah, I was entertained by the movie. I did not think it was a great movie, but there is so much of a good concept in there that I was just like, come on. But, I'm rooting for you. Like, I want it to be good. I was like, I wanted it to be good. But yeah, it was a little bit lackluster in, the parts that we had mentioned. And of course, Jared Leto gets the permanence code. He ends up beating Jodie Turner-Smith in a fight. And it's, Hassan Minaj and like a whole bunch of like other random individuals are trying to like, help do the hacking and stuff in the behind the scenes. It's kind of lackluster, and they all could have been written out, unfortunately, with little, repercussion to the story. It just felt like all right, we need to flesh out this cast. But yeah, so it's definitely, I don't think it's better than Legacy. Legacy feels like a more complete movie. It's a more not, I'd say maybe a more of a fulfilling movie, but I would honestly say that this movie is being held up very highly, in my opinion, by the by the aesthetic, the cinematography. Who did the cinematography here? Jeff Cornwith. Jeff Conanwith, I think. He's okay, so he has worked with Leto before. Interesting. Okay, so this is the same cinematographer as that's been with David Fincher on Fight Club. He did 1 Hour Photo. He did he's worked with Fincher's The Social Network, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl. Yeah, he did some work with Aaron Sorkin, and being in the Ricardos. Let me see if there's anything else that we're in. Yeah, this dude is, I think he's a master at what he does, because if you watch any of those movies that I've just mentioned, you're like, holy, this dude is shooting the hell out of this. And so I wonder if it was like the connection, the production. Maybe it was Leto that brought him on. I don't know. I'd be curious to see how this was actually formed. I'd say this guy has some of the highest accolades with regards of some of the best movies I've seen, with Fincher especially, that I've seen in quite a while. And that's probably why we're like, holy shit, these visuals are just like outstanding. Before we finish, Jeff Bridges is in this, and it's basically like, oh, Jeff Bridges is like the guy in the machine that is the ghost in the machine that's giving the permanence code to Jared Leto, and there is what feels like no emotional resonance with that. It's just like Leto appears, Jeff says a few things, and then he's like, Kevin Flynn says a few things, and then he's out. He's just like, oh, congratulations, you made it. Here's the gift. Da-da-da-da. It's like a fucking level up kind of thing. And, there's a lot of like, well, we could have had this be more gamified, I guess. But, I don't want to write the whole movie again. I just kind of wish there was a little bit more substance to it. And I think that's what the ultimate thing is. Gray GG's, what up, bud? What up, dog? Any thoughts on Tron Ares or Tron franchise as a whole? We're kind of doing a quick roundup on the review here. Did you get to see Tron Ares, or did you go back and watch Legacy, or have you seen the original Tron? It is one of my, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite franchises, but I have a lot of respect for it, and I wish that the movies were as good as the iconography is. I want, a Tron bike. I think that would be kind of cool and fun to ride. Woken up from a power nap. You're still, You are still in the computer, my friend. It's okay. It is okay. We appreciate the double biddies. Double biddies. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Oh my gosh. You're too nice. You're too kind, my friend. But yeah, so anyways, we I liked I I enjoyed the movie. I wanted it to be a hell of a lot better, I'll be honest. And I have 20 other films that are going to be beating it on my, end of the year list. And of course, we'll go through that at the very end of, December, probably early January, once everything has been completely released. But this Nine Inch Nails soundtrack is honestly one of the best soundtracks I've heard in quite a while. And, I wish, thank you, Sid, for the double biddies again. Yeah, I just think the aesthetic's really cool. The story, a little lackluster, like many things. It kind of reminds me of like how the OG Star Wars, like the first trilogy, if that did not hit, if it didn't have good heart and good story and like interesting characters, it would basically be a Tron movie. And the more I think about it, the Tron, I'd say the Tron franchise, the 3 movies that we have, feel more like later Star Wars movies than the earlier ones. And I wish that we had the heart of the earlier ones. And I wish these Tron movies had a little bit more heart and they weren't just all aesthetic and sick soundtrack. I want all of it together. Two more biddies. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Oh, yeah. Add it sometime when you got time. Yeah, I most definitely. I'm definitely going to try to do, if we're feeling it, we'll do a review of the Tron Legacy. Of course, I had completely forgot that Joseph Kosinski, the director of F1 and Top Gun Maverick, was the director on the second Tron. I was like, oh shit, like this guy's good. He's good as fuck now. Like, I bet if he went back and did like a recut of Tron Legacy, it'd be like, oh shit, Oh shit, Greg, what is that? It's currently on a 5-stream streak. Bang, yes sir. Straight dang. Yeah. Glad to have you here, man. Glad to have you. Are you going live? Are you going live? But yeah, Joseph Kosinski, if he did a recut, I would be curious if he did a recut on it. He would make that a really badass film. I mean, it's a fine film, Legacy. With the Daft Punk score, it's obviously elevated again. It's like, holy shit, this is like, like I was like fist pumping in the club in the movie theater. I was like, this is absolutely still one of the coolest aesthetics for Legacy. So there was a lot set up for Tron Ares to be good. I wish it was better. I've said this 100 times now. It's that aesthetic. That aesthetic is just straight ripping. And yeah, and I also want a Tron bike. It'd be pretty cool to have one of those. But yeah, let me know what you thought about the review. I know, Gray, you walked in a little bit late. Let me know what you thought about Tron, the Tron franchise. If you saw it, if you saw Ares, if you saw Legacy, if you saw the OG. If you didn't see it, that's all cool. Let me know what your favorite sci-fi movie is. You already know that sci-fi is some of my favorite movies to watch. It always has been. Always been like a futuristic gearhead in the living in the future, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, this looks like too much fun. But yeah, we're gonna close out the review. Gray, are you live right now? Are you getting a little live action right now? Let me see. Who the hell's live right now? I don't even know if we got. I don't like to do a raid of one, but if we got one or two cool cats in here, dude, Keanu Reeves in Tron, dude, that would have been sick. I mean, it would have been hella Matrix, based, but that would be a pretty you could even bring Morpheus in that for me. I'd be like, I'm down with this, dude. That would be a great one to do. Let me see what we've got. I think we're about to close out here. Let me close out the podcast real quick. We won't close out the stream yet, though. All right, y'all. Y'all know what to do. Look at our podcast. Let me know what you thought about the review. Let me know what you think about Tron. Let me know if you like, the franchise. If you're like, I'm done with this, I don't give a shit about it. Let's move on. We got like 20 other franchises and new franchises to make. Get out of here. That kind of thing. More two biddies. Hey, throw a biddy on it. Thank you, Gray. Yeah, let me just close this out real quick. And Gray. And everybody else in the chat, I know we had some people coming in and out. Thank y'all for joining us for the movie review. We're going to close this out. Y'all know what to do. Join us on YouTube for the VODs and the comment section and all that craziness in there. Let me know what you thought about the review. I know it's a tad bit scattered, but I kind of wanted to cherry pick some of the things that I was like, ooh, this is really nice. And I was like, oh, this is really nice too. I know this is getting a lot of pushback from like the critics, so I'm not trying to defend it, but I am trying to kind of articulate it a little bit, if that helps. So, and another two biddies. I gave you some of these for the two biddies. All right, y'all. Y'all know what to do, and take it easy.